For the watch, for the black, for the oath taken by the tree, for our fellow brothers in arms, for those never to be free. For the watch, for our fighters, for our towering great wall, for those who stand to defend it, for those who heed the call. For the watch, for those now gone, for all those graves that lie here, for those who died for our cause, for those who knew no fear. For the watch, for those who need our help, for all of those both friend and foe, for those that rely on our strength, for those people we will never know. For the watch, for our code and honour, for those who break our ancient law, for those who face our deadly revenge, for those who suffer evermore. An innocent man is dragged out, a crowd baying for blood. The wolves are being hunted down. His daughters are standing by, hoping that he will be spared, but hope does not exist here. Not with a boy king ruling, wielding power like a toy, his thirst for violence unchecked. He hears the wolves' pleas and seems to show mercy, but this is a trick. He calls for the traitor's head. The others stand and do nothing, complicit in their silence. His daughters try and intervene, but they are held back. They shouldn't witness this atrocity. The executioner lifts his axe. The blade falls upon his neck. The birds of peace fly away. For his bereaved daughters, they must learn how to survive. The war of the kings has begun. They are lost in the sands of time. No memory of them exists. All we have is the stories we tell, and the bones that lie in the ground. Long ago they flew high in the clouds, majestic creatures dominating the skies. Those that owned them knew their worth, to control all the kingdoms in the realm. But their power became all too consuming. Civil war broke out amongst the family. This sowed the seed of their destruction. Dragon fought dragon until none were left. When they died out, they lost all purpose. Without their dragons, their threats meant nothing. Slowly and surely, they destroyed themselves, and the flying creatures were long forgotten. Years later, their long-lost relatives emerged. The brother had ambitions to be king. There was a sister who would be the one, marrying the leader of a fiery tribe. On her wedding, she received a gift, 3 fossilized dragon eggs, a lost relic. It was thought they were dead inside, but the Fire Princess knew otherwise. On her husband's funeral, a pyre was lit. She walked into the flames with the eggs, and emerged the next morning with 3 dragons, ready to launch a new dynasty in the sky. Bring me the light, let me worship the Lord. The prophecy will come true, the God and his sword. Pray for his second coming, his heart burning with fire. Our enemies will be destroyed, lying on a funeral pyre. Look into the bright flame, see your future laid bare. The path we must choose, a challenge if you dare. The bonfires will be lit, sacrifices must be made. Those who do not believe, their debts will be paid. Do not be afraid at night, the terrors will lie in wait. The struggle will be over, and you will know your fate. The chosen one will return, and the others will be slain, and your life will be free, released from the pain. Lord, hear my prayer. I am wandering lost, waiting to be found. Every night I pray, I need your help. Justice must be served. My father dead, my sister a hostage. My family scattered far and wide. Those responsible must pay. I can hear their names echoing in my head. Lying in the dark, rain falling on me, I build my death list. This is my inspiration, the only thing keeping me going. Nothing else matters now. I will hunt them down all day and all night. Vengeance will be mine. Ever since I fell from the tower, I can no longer walk, but I can dream, and I dream of the raven. It stares at me with its black eyes and flies off into the distance, willing me to join it to journey beyond the wall. I can jump into other creatures, see the world as they see it. They help save me from danger on the perilous trip north. I have other visions. I can see into the past and the future as well. what has been and what will become. I escaped the prison castle with my brother, the giant and the wildling. Soon we will meet the strange twins, one of whom shares my visions. It is he who tells me my fate. I'll reach the tree with the beautiful red leaves. There I will meet my mentor, the old man, the third-eyed raven. But the dead king will attack. The giant and the twin will sacrifice themselves. And before the old man leaves this world, he will hand his power to me. Now I can see as he did, and I must return home to complete my destiny, but I'll never be the same ever again. The ship sailed into view. The waiting is over. The bells toll their warnings, the drums beat their march. Inside the keep, the queen counsels the wolf princess on all the horrors that may await them. The stag king and his hand prepare to launch an attack, but a trap is set, a lone ship drifts by. The dwarf plays his trick, the sellsword fires his arrow, obliterating the fleet with deadly green fire. But the invaders don't give up. They reach the shore. With no tricks left, the defenders are facing defeat. The king flees for safety, the knight deserts his post. Only the dwarf holds steady, rallying his troops once more. Through a secret tunnel they confront the invaders, but they are outnumbered and the dwarf is struck down. Inside the castle walls, the queen fears the worst. She prepares her son for the deep, eternal sleep. When all hope seems lost, a cavalry rise into view. The lion god has returned with new allies at his side. They rout the invaders and save the capital, but now they must prepare for future wars to come. I am lost in my own pit of hell, tortured by an unknown man, in a place mysterious to me. My old identity has been erased. I have been given a new name. This is my future now. My past is a confusing mess. I was born into one family, but brought up by another. Never really belonged anywhere. I was a prize for a war I never knew, a pawn to be played with. Desperate to prove myself, I led my soldiers into battle, taking the castle, my former home. But I was no warrior leader, and so I betrayed everyone I knew, and buried my past forever. I thought I had it all worked out. Turns out I didn't know anything. I barely even knew myself. Trying to forget all my sins now, waiting for them to be pardoned, waiting to be set free. She protected him time and time again, because he was important to them. He would lead them to the wall, but she also wanted him for herself. She stole the sword from him and ran across the snowy ground, hoping that he would follow into the warm glowing cave. There she set her trap. She wanted him to reveal the truth, about his commitment to his watch, but also how he felt about her. Of course he shouldn't do it, should he? But it's difficult to avoid your desires. How could he not resist her, standing there in her fiery red hair? She wanted to teach him a lesson, all the ways of the world, all the things he didn't know. Turns out he did know a few things after all. One day they'd stand on top of the wall and stare down upon the kingdom and share a long loving embrace, sealed with a kiss. For now they lay in a pool, and they made an oath to each other. They would never forget this moment, and they would never leave this cave ever again. There once was a dashing young knight, desperate to make a name for himself, to show his honour, valour and courage, and lo and behold an opportunity arose. He had to save the city and its people from being destroyed by the deadly wildfire, and so he slew the villain king on his back and stopped his evil plans in their tracks. And by rights he should have been the hero, but it never turned out that way. His glory was kept secret, misinterpreted into a twisted lie. The Wolf Prince came across them both, instead of praising him for his heroism, condemned him as an oath-breaking traitor, and sealed his fate forever. He ended up on the wrong side of history, for his oath had been to that same king, and by killing him he'd broken that sacred vow, and was deemed forever as unworthy. He was given a special nickname for his act, one that should have been a glorious accolade. Instead, it was a term for abuse and insult. People stared at him with dismay and disgust. Only the tall knight knew the truth. He had confessed his story to her and her only. Her love had kept them going, even when they were both facing death. One day he'd get a chance to regain his honour, to show he was a great fighter, who lived by a strong moral code and died trying to be a better man. Only the dwarf showed compassion. He was the outsider of his family, desperate to be accepted, waiting for an opportunity to show his cunning intelligence. It was deemed they were to be married, although neither of them wanted this. It was to bring together their warring families. Both of them knew this was a lie. The ceremony involved many humiliations, mainly at the hands of the boy king. They both wanted it to end and disappear forever. He thought she was too stuck up, that she was too good for him, and she thought he was far too reckless, always getting too drunk. But they came to an understanding. She forgave him for his ways, and he promised that no harm would come to her, and this marriage would keep them both alive. The ceremony done, the couple have been wed. This will bring together their two houses. Past differences must be forgotten. The war is too important now. The foe they face will show no mercy to see them both destroyed. The noise dies down, the revelry is over. The doors are shut for the final time. The band strikes up the sad familiar anthem, and the lady knows the ceremony isn't done. The host thanks his invited guests, asks for one final present for his bride. The lady turns to one of the soldiers and realises the horrible, awful truth. Suddenly the hosts turn upon their guests. Arrows strike them down from all sides. They are stabbed to death as the blood flows red. No one's left alive to tell their story. It was revenge for being betrayed, revenge for being laughed at, revenge against those arrogant lords. The host never forgot these slights. The king had been slain in his prime. His mother, wife and child lay dying beside him. Their cause and their army lay dead with them. Their flag had flown for the last time. Against the word of my advisors, I bargained away one of my dragons, in order to gain a new army. A high price to pay, but one that'll be worth it. But it's not that simple. I've learned from my mistakes. Never reveal your true intentions. Never believe what anybody says. Never give up your power. Once the exchange had taken place and the deal was done in good faith, I told the master the truth. I knew what he had said, every lie and insult he had spoken. I ordered my dragon to burn him alive, and I turned to speak to my new army. Turn on your former masters, kill them all, change this world forever. This is only the beginning. There are more masters of cities waiting to be conquered. I have 3 dragons that rain fire, and an army I beck and call. But you can win in other ways. In order to defeat the masters, should be the slaves' role, to destroy the tyrants, to show them chains can be broken. They leave their city gates far behind, and call out for me to join them. I am not afraid, for I am their mother, and now I have more children to save. How could you kill a boy in cold blood, murdered on his wedding day? The young king had a bright future ahead of him, leading us on to a better world. Coughing and choking, dying in the arms of his mother, he pointed at his accuser, condemning his uncle to death. But there are other suspects. A king can create many enemies, particularly if he abuses his power, pushes everyone too far. Bullying his serfs and subjects, threatening his counsellors, insulting his family, never realising the consequences. He didn't know the truth. It was a lie that put him on the throne. He wasn't meant to be king. He hadn't even earned that right. He had no understanding of life. In the end, karma plays its final hand. In his final moment, he learned a lesson that anyone, even a powerful king, can be killed. The time for combat has begun. A man's life is at stake. The sun shines down upon them all. Today, justice will be served. The dwarf has rolled his last dice. This fight will decide his fate. The glamorous prince is his champion, against the unbeatable monstrous giant. The trumpet sounds the start of the fight. The prince is not concerned by his opponent. Size isn't everything. Skill plays a part. A drink and a lover's kiss sees him on his way. His spear clashes with the giant's sword, and he spins and twirls away. This is not just about winning this fight. He wants to know the truth of his sister's death. He manages to gain the upper hand and pierce the giant's chest. And as the monster falls to the ground, he asks the burning question. Did you kill her? Did you? Say it. Say her name. Confess that you did it. I won't let you die until you say it. But the giant gains the upper hand. He flips the prince over and crushes his skull. His lover's scream echoes across the court, and two heroes' fates have been sealed forever. The fires have been lit. The war cry sounds out. The army approaches us. Only the war can stop them. The odds are against us. They have far greater numbers. But our commander speaks out, giving us a rallying call. This is not the end. This place has not fallen. Not for 1,000 years. It will not fall tonight. But a trap is set. They breach the back wall. They flood the courtyard, cutting us down in waves. Our commander is struck down. Others start to lose hope. Time to step up, to show them their chosen leader. I call out the young maester to release the deadly wolf. It leaps out of his cage and rips into our enemies. But the giant has breached the outer gate. It must be stopped at all costs. I tell my young colleague, hold the inner gate, whatever it takes. Down the courtyard I take control, killing as many wildlings as I can, taking out the ravenous cannibal, changing the course of the battle. But I see her in the distance, the wildling firing arrows, the one I fell in love with, the one I broke my vows for. Our eyes meet, she raises her bow. Now we are enemies, but perhaps she still loves me. She hesitates for a moment. Maybe she won't kill me. Perhaps we can both survive this. Perhaps our love will win through. But an arrow strikes her, shot by the young boy. Revenge for his family's death. The life drains out of her. I hold her tenderly as she dies, wishing I could stop this, wishing there was another way, wishing we had never left that cave. The battle has been won, but at a very high price. My colleague stopped the giant, the cost of his own life. Too many died tonight, and many more will die tomorrow. I have to stop this madness, even if that sacrifice my own life. Two fighters come face to face on the unforgiving high cliff. The cold wind buffets them, trying to throw them off course. They both wanted to save her. He had taken her for ransom. She was charged to protect her, and neither was backing down. They drew their swords in unison. Her steel clashed into his. Neither of them had lost a fight, and this would be fought to the bitter end. It was vicious and violent. It was bloodthirsty and brutal. There was no glory, just survival high up on the cliff. And when they lost the swords, it descended into a savage brawl. She managed to gain the upper hand, smashing his head with a rock. The victor went off in the distance to search for the prize, but she had vanished into thin air. The fight had been won for nothing. For the loser, it was a bleaker end. He lay there bleeding to death. The prize appeared in front of him. He begged her for a quick end. She thought about his final request, but she wasn't going to make it easy for him. He deserved a long goodbye. So despite his pleas, she walked off into the distance. Knock twice for freedom, knock twice to escape, knock twice to save yourself from the executioner's axe. Your brother and your friend have a plan, for you to leave this treacherous place. Don't go back, but you can't resist. You need to know the truth. You enter his lair, your nemesis, your father. And there she lies, the woman you love, the one who betrayed you, now sleeping with him. The circle is complete. In fear she grabs a knife, and in a desperate struggle, you end her sad life. You didn't want to kill her. Not her, she was the one. You see the crossbow on the wall, and it all becomes clear. He must be confronted. He must say those words, that you were always his son. But in his final moments, he cannot speak them. So you finish his life, releasing the deadly bolts. Now it's time to leave. Finally aboard the ship, the bells ring out, and you realise in horror, what have you done? What have you done? They leave their ships in the bay and sail to the muddy shore. A welcoming party greets them, but it isn't that welcome. The two sides meet to resolve their differences, but past hatreds are difficult to forget. In the end, a truce is agreed. Some will stay, some will leave. It just isn't enough. But then the dogs start to behave strangely, barking like mad at something high up in the hills. And then there's the silence, the deafening silence. It is foreboding, waiting for something to happen. The snow drifts towards them like smoke from a fire, hiding within something fearsome and unknown. Close the gates, they shout. They can't be let in. Others are left behind, their lives snuffed out. It all goes eerily quiet. But suddenly the wall shakes. The dead smash into it, splintering and ripping the wood. As the archers hold them off, others flee in panic. They head for the boats to escape this nightmare. The Wolf King and his allies manage to fight a rearguard action. They hold the wall to try and save as many as they can. The Wolf King manages to kill one of the dead warriors. Maybe there is hope. Perhaps they can be defeated. But it can't save the battle. The wall eventually collapses. The dead flood the village, killing as many as they can. The only hope for the survivors is to reach the final boat. Aided by the giant, they manage it just in time. The dead can't reach them, but it doesn't matter. They've already won. The others have merely survived. As the Wolf King and his allies drift out to sea, the Blue God approaches them, revealing his plan. To show his power, he raises his arms. All those who've died become the new undead. The Wolf King realises this war has only just started. Already the hopes of winning it seem hopelessly lost. At this moment, I have lost all hope. My head shaved short. My name has been shamed. My identity ripped apart. Now I stand before them, waiting for them to pass judgment upon me, for all the crimes I have committed, for all the punishments I have meted out. And then the final humiliation. I am stripped naked, like a baby thrown into the world, desperate, scared, alone. I begin the long journey home, and the insults start to fly. Cheater, liar, whore, slut. Shame, 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 shame. The bell rings its solemn tones, passing its judgment on me. How dare they judge me? Who judges them? Food and debris are thrown at me. Don't let them see you cry. Just keep looking up. You're almost home. But you can't go on forever. Sooner or later you just break. You collapse, the tears flow. You just can't give any more. Finally you reach the sanctuary. There are the friends you have left. Time to recover, plan your revenge. Destroy those who rose up against you. I return from the battle with the survivors. Our reception is cold and silent. I have united these two worlds to bring peace, but it's not won me many friends. I have lost comrades, lovers, mentors, and now I say goodbye to my best friend. Him, his wife and his child do not belong here. They represent a better world for all of us. I try to recruit new watchers for the wall, but no one is listening. They don't know what's coming. I do, and have the scars to prove it. They tell me my uncle has returned, the one who persuaded me to join. He knows the truth. He'll make them see the light. But I realise it's a trick, and as I turn back, my commander steps in front of me and buries his knife into my chest. One by one they stab me, and then the final cut. The young boy, my protege, finishes me off for good. As I lay there bleeding in the snow, I wait for the new world to take me, the one the Red Woodman talked about. Perhaps I'll find some peace there after all. He can't be dead. It can't be true. It can't be real. He wouldn't leave us. To die in that place, in the freezing cold snow, with no one to save him, that's no way to go. To be betrayed by his colleagues, to be tricked by a lie, to be stabbed over and over again, to be killed by a boy. He won't be the prince that was promised, nor the fighter against the dead, nor the king in the north, nor the angel in the black coat. What will he see in the afterlife when he finally closes his eyes? Hopefully it'll be a better place than this. Let there be no more darkness. But I believe he will be returned. It is written in the prophecies. So says the Red Woman. She will attempt to bring him back. And when he does return, I'll believe in everything. That miracles can happen, and saviours can be reborn. I am no one, but I was someone before. The daughter of a northern lord. I didn't want to be like the other girls. I wanted to be a fighter, and that's how I ended up here. I've had to learn very quickly, as my family was hunted down. I escaped disguised as a boy, and ended up being captured, held prisoner in a dead castle. There I met a strange man, who told me some wild stories of new gods and worlds. He gave me a coin to enter the ancient city. There I found a mysterious house, so I could begin again to become someone else. A swordswoman, an assassin, a fighter, a killer. But I made a crucial mistake. I killed before I was ready, revenge for my old master's death. So they took something precious from me, my sight of this beautiful world. I could have it all back, my sight, food, shelter, my name and my world. It doesn't matter anymore, only the desire to take revenge. I have a list of all of them, all of those who need to die. My life won't be complete until they all end up dead, rotting in the ground. I've seen so much of our history, things you wouldn't believe, right into my family's past, the way they used to be. The decisions they made, the choices they faced, the wars they fought, the way they survived. The old man took me further, deep into the midst of time, when the children fought against us and created a new enemy. But I wanted to know more, so I went back myself, and there they were, the dead army we will face. They couldn't see me, but I could see them, so I walked among them. How could we stop this? And there he was, the dead king in all his majesty. But something wasn't right. He was staring right at me. I realised he could see me, and so could his army. I turned to escape and he grabbed me fiercely. I awoke in a cold sweat, his mark upon my arm. Now he knew where we were, and now he was coming for us all. Hold the door to stop them coming. Hold the door to save the future. Hold the door to save my friends, so they can see out their days. Hold the door to save my master. Hold the door to set him free. Hold the door to complete his destiny. His visions will change the world. Many years ago, I was a simple farm boy, but I had a vision of the future, and it left me completely lost. I tried to fight against my fate. I tried to run away from it. In the end, I accepted it, but I couldn't tell anyone. People thought I was a fool, an idiot who spoke only his name. If only they knew the truth, if only they knew what was in my mind. Hold the door as they rip into me. Hold the door as they tear apart my skin, as my friends disappear into the white, shouting out to me, hold the door, hold the door. Just keep holding, forevermore. The smiling tyrant has superior numbers. He taunts them with this knowledge. The wolves know it'll be tough to beat him, but this is their last chance. The Wolf King is uneasy and unsettled. Why did the priestess bring him back? To win this conflict and return home? Or sacrifice himself for the cause again? His sister shares his deep concerns. She knows what the enemy is really like. This she has learnt from bitter memory. She doesn't want to see her brother fall. Morning comes and the armies line up. A trap is set for the Wolf King. His younger brother used as bait, killed to leave him stranded in no man's land. Then the cavalries charge, smashing into each other with a ferocity that shakes the ground. Chaos reigns over the battlefield. Arrows fly into the melee, killing as many on both sides. The smiling tyrant doesn't care, as long as the odds turn to his favour. Then his soldiers surround the wolves, trapping them in a tight circle. The shields get closer and closer, slowly squashing the life out of them. They try to break out of the circle, but the spears cut them down. They're running out of time and space, and there's nowhere left to go. The bodies pile higher and higher, a quagmire filled with mud and blood. You fell in and you didn't come out, dying to breathe your last breath. When all hope seems lost, another cavalry rides into view. His sister and her confidence army has returned, changing the course of the battle. The smiling tyrant flees the battlefield, the Wolf King giant and wildling in pursuit. Inside the castle they force his surrender. Now the wolves are home again. Now I'm face to face with my nemesis, the man who caused me so much pain, who violated my body and soul, who took away my innocence. I never thought this day would ever come, that I would have the power for the first time, to be able to inflict pain back. to be able to take revenge. Of course, it isn't just about him. It's for all those who wronged me, all those who attacked my family, all those who have stood against me. The boy who executed my father and then just beat me for fun. His family who hunted my kin and their lying, treacherous friends. The ones who pretended to be allies, the ones who pledged past loyalties, who invited my family to their place and murdered them in cold blood. And then there's the power broker who led me into this deadly plot. One day he will face his judgment, but I can wait for that day to come. What better way to end a pathetic life, to turn his own creatures against him, to watch them rip into his flesh, to tear his life and world apart. As I slowly walk away from it, I can't help but break into a smile. Now he learns what real pain is, right at the end of his life. I am no longer the princess. I am no longer the little girl. I am no longer the helpless victim. I am now the Queen of the North. I have been waiting for a long time, for all the pieces to fall into place. In a few moments, it will all be over, and order will be restored to the city. Over the last few years, I have seen my father killed, my son and daughter poisoned, my family ripped apart. My enemies have grown stronger, rival families have taken power, cults have enforced their will with their fake, hypocritical views. I have been arrested and imprisoned, humiliated and tortured, but I never gave up at being whole again. Today is the day of my trial, only I won't be there, but my enemies will be, which is very convenient for me. The Rose Princess and her brother, my treacherous cousin and uncle, the holy man and his pious flock, all unaware of their fate. For underneath them all is a special weapon to wipe them out. It only takes one spark to light the flame and change the course of history. And when the fire and dust settles, I can't help but smile to myself. Now I will become the Lion Queen, and there's nothing to stop me anymore. The ship sails into shore, to familiar sights and sounds, not from my memory, but from stories I have heard. This was originally my home, although I have never seen it. My ancestors once lived here during their long, peaceful reign. As the boat reaches the beach, I slowly step onto the ground. I crouch down to touch the sand, to feel its warmth texture. We walk up the long steps. We see the dragon sculptures, beautiful and powerful, not realistic but glorious. The long tall gates open up, revealing its secrets, the throne room of jagged stone where I will sit and rule. And there's the map room of all the kingdoms of the world. I caress my hand across it, thinking what can be achieved. Time to stop reminiscing. There is work to be done, to reclaim my former lands, restore them to their glory. In the giant great hall, with its jagged throne, two strangers come face to face, and there is silence, tension hanging in the air. North and south in unison, a lost son and daughter, a former Hans and kings. Their families were allies, and hopefully would be again. One of them was born in secret. She was made in the burning fire, united many tribes and armies, took over the slave cities. Now she was nearly home. The other was also born in secret. He lived in a castle in the snow. He took the black to learn to fight. He became the king of the north, to fight another great war. The daughter's achievements were vast, and were read out in a glorious ceremony. The son's achievements weren't as great, but this meant nothing to him. There were more important things at stake. It seemed they could get on together, but the son brought up the deaths of his family at the hand of hers. They both stared at each other. Could they trust each other after all? They had finally arrived after a long journey. The army of the dead were ready to strike. They walked right up to the giant wall and stopped, awaiting their next move. The defenders were fearful but resolute. They still had a strong advantage. The wall had stood for 1,000 years. There was no chance of it falling now. But the dead had a trick up their sleeve, a weapon more powerful than ever, one that no one ever believed existed, except in a horrifying nightmare. The soldiers on the wall heard a cry, like nothing they'd heard before. Something was circling them above. They couldn't work out what it was. It revealed itself through the mist, a flying creature with blue eyes. It opens its mouth to engulf them in a deadly, blazing blue flame. The defenders run for their lives as the wall collapses around them. There seemed no way of escaping. This would be the grave for them all. The only protection for the world disappeared into the sea and snow. There was nothing now in their way as the army marched its deathly beat. Soon the rest of the world would see what they would have to fight against. Unless they could stop this apocalypse, they would all become the living dead. Be revealed. For some it will be their last night, reunions and memories remembered, loves and prophecies fulfilled, truths and dreams revealed. As the dead launched their endless attacks, many heroes and heroines would emerge, the prince and the tall knight protecting the wall, cutting down the invaders with their wolf swords. With them, the onion knight, the smith and the squire, the silent warrior and the wildling, all fighting, killing as many dead as they can, despite being outnumbered and outflanked. The dwarf, the wolf queen, the translator, the advisor and the wildling, all hiding in the crypt. They hear the sounds of terror above them, praying they never see what they are hearing. But of course there are tragic but noble sacrifices made. The night watchman dying to save the young maester, the young bear stabbing the giant in the eye, but losing her life as they collapse to the ground. And then there is a resurrected man using his last life, along with a scarred knight saving the assassin. His final death fulfills the Lord of Light's plan, so the assassin can complete her own destiny. The returning priestess has already foreseen this. She uses her fire magic to push the dead back, and before she dies she tells the assassin, the god of death has arrived, but he isn't welcome here. By the crimson tree the raven waits as a bait, to draw the dead king closer to his presence. The Northern Queen has died protecting him, but she won't be the last to fall. The lost boy, desperate to redeem his mistakes, the raven absolves him of all his guilt, and so he charges at the approaching dead king, and dies, saving his real home and family. It seems nobody can stop his deadly shadow. The Fire Queen and the Wolf King have tried, using dragon's fire and sword to kill him, but his relentless immortal march goes on. In the end, it is the assassin who succeeds, using her training to stab him with the glass. His death shatters his army and they all fall down. Somehow the living have survived the long night. But there is one final sacrifice to be made. The loyal knight struck down protecting his queen. Her tears of regret as she never told him the truth. He was a true love after all these years. The next morning, the bodies are laid out. The full cost of this terrible battle is seen. It's a chance for a final goodbye and tears. Time to let go of friends and lovers. The Wolf King makes a moving speech, how everybody was united in battle, to fight and die for this one cause, to become the shield to defend them all. They owed them a great debt, one they couldn't pay back. All they could do in the future was to keep their memory burning bright. The survivors walk through the broken city. They see the carnage all around them. It wasn't supposed to be this way, not the slaughter of the innocents. The dwarf and the knight stagger in silence. Once this had been their home. Now there wasn't much left of it, just burning bodies and molten ash. The Wolf King was also in shock. His soldiers had killed hundreds. Revenge of the beheading and the red wedding. Victory had never tasted so bitter. For the assassin, steeped in death, this was beyond anything she had seen. She had entered the city seeking retribution, but had seen the light and turned back. The scarred knight told her not to follow him. He was there to settle old scores with his brother, but there was no going back for him. Both of them plunged into the flames. The prince had also taken his revenge, killing his great rival the Sea King, to get back to the woman they both loved, even if it meant he would never leave. She was the proud Lion Queen, who refused to give up her throne, even when the dragon circled menacingly, threatening to destroy them all. The dwarf wanted a peaceful end, hoping the new king would relent, so when the bells rang out at last, his dream looked like coming true. But for the Dragon Queen, it was too late. Grief had pushed her over the edge. She had lost a dragon, her friend, her soulmate. They would pay dearly for her loss. So the last dragon flew from street to street, burning everything that moved. Soldier, civilian, mother, child, the monster didn't care anymore. And in the aftermath, the dwarf came across his brother the prince and his sister the queen, locked in a final, deadly embrace, his last surviving family buried in stone. The new queen thanked her armies, promising more great victories, lands and people to conquer, more wheels to break and shatter. For the victors, the spoils of war; for the losers, horror and death; for the survivors covered in ash, the fear, the worst is yet to come. I have a story to tell you. People will think it is a myth, but every word is the truth. I know because I was there. It is a story of murder and deception, revenge, retribution, plots and plans, good intentions and great heroes, and those that were more conflicted. There were kings and queens, all vying for the throne and the crown. Families fought and died for them, histories and bloodlines wiped out. What part did I play in this great story? Well, I wasn't a fighter or warrior, nor a great politician or strong leader, but I was good at reading and learning. I took the black with my new comrades. I learned about friendship, loyalty and honour. I also learned about love from a wildling girl, and in protecting her, I learned my greatest lesson. The glass I discovered in the snow had the power to kill the death wizards, information I told my friend, the new king, to help us win the war against the dead. When I became a maester, I learnt another secret, about his real parentage that was lost in time, a secret that changed the balance of the realm, just as the Dragon Queen was winning the throne. My friend had to kill his lover, the new queen, in order to save the realm and his family, a sacrifice that saw him exiled north of the wall, a sacrifice that gave him the freedom he always craved. His family was briefly reunited, but left for new paths. His flame-haired sister became the Queen of the North. Her younger sister left to sail west for great adventures, and their brother became the ruler of them all. I became the Grand Maester of the kingdom, with the dwarf as appointed hand, 2 knights, a squire and a sellsword. We set out to right the mistakes of the past. And then there was the book, the one written about it all, the one I gave the title to, the one I will always have. So that for the future realm we could tell them the truth, so they could work together for a better and fairer world. Of course the book isn't perfect, characters are portrayed unfairly, but of course you can correct it. There are pages still yet to be written. Maybe one day I'll rewrite it, to tell them what really happened, but that is for another time, and another story to be told.